Hello, 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 and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 289. I'm on the highway to health. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Just couldn't quite hit the vocal
maybe
range.
One octave higher and you would have had it.
Yeah, I would have hurt myself. I know. I watched that documentary last night on the making of We Are the World that's on Netflix. You seen that?
No, I haven't seen it.
Man, it's just a trip. I mean, just getting those 40 artists in the room and coordinating. I didn't realize they started that thing after the American Music Awards, which, as Lionel Richie said, used to be a big deal. Because he's kind of narrating the whole thing. And it ended at 7 a.m.
Really?
Yeah, all those people, they just going because none of them knew anything.
Convince them to stick around. That's the question.
Oh, it's crazy. Waylon Jennings, I guess at one point Stevie Wonder started singing in Swahili, and he thought that they should insert Swahili into the middle of the song. And then someone informed him that in Ethiopia, they didn't speak Swahili. And then Waylon Jennings says, "No country boy ever sort of sang Swahili," and walked out of the room. So he was the only one who bailed. Anyway, it was nuts. It's a good show, though. It's well worth the watch. I think it's called The Greatest Night Ever or something. But it was pretty good watch. Anyway, how you doing?
Doing good. Looking forward to hopefully getting into the warmer season here in Colorado, but otherwise just trying to stay warm. I got my fuzzy lined jacket here to help out, and surviving.
I'm going full old school Zenatta swag.
I know. I love that jacket. That is a classic. Super soft.
It's a good one. It's comfy too. Soft. Just soft and comfortable. It's nice. I know. All right, buddy. Well, we got a big show today. We got a ton of Zoho news. But before we get to that, a few words from our sponsors. This episode of the CRM Zen Show is brought to you by ZPortals. ZPortals is a must-have extension allowing you to effortlessly coordinate with clients and partners. We configure ZPortals all the time for our clients who are looking for the best portal solution. And boy, do we love how easy it is to customize and the flexibility to connect to multiple Zoho apps. So don't wait. Check out ZPortals today and be sure to mention Zenatta to get 10% off your first month.
Are you looking into starting a podcast? Or maybe just need some help putting it all together so you could focus on your voice telling your story? Introducing Podcaster Zen. From audio podcasts to video to live streaming a show, we do it all. Head over to podcasterzen.com for more info on how we can help you share your message with the world.
All right. There we go. Let's start with some announcements and events. That was a completely 100% AI generated Brett, by the way, on that.
I know. Blows me away how good those things are getting.
Pretty good. I know. Not horrible at all. Anyway, thanks to ZPortals for sponsoring and Podcaster Zen, who produces all of our videos. And with that, on announcements and events here, well, it's kind of the same old. We've got our events as always. So we're going to be having our Azaz. Azaz we've changed now. They're actually we need to update this calendar. We're going to be dropping individual Azaz questions every week. So we're getting together. We're going to answer almost all your questions either on YouTube or over in Club Z. And if they're not answered there, they will be answered there as well. But we're going to choose the top 4 questions every month. We're recording kind of 5 to 10 minute segments on them where we get 2 experts. They're going to talk about them. We're going to do screen shares and those kind of things. So Azaz really will just be dropping on a weekly basis now. So it looks like maybe that is changed. Yeah, we got the 14th, the 21st, the 28th. So look for that. Basically, it looks like every Wednesday now, I guess we're going to be dropping an Azaz. So check that out. That should be cool. Then the CRM Zen Show as always. And then I'm excited about the Zoho Recruit Full Product Overview. That is an application that has just come a long way. And we're going to be doing a nice little webinar on that as well. And then Zoho has got all of their events going on in person and webinars. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff around CRM Plus, Zoho Social, Zoho Mail. So check out the calendar. Just head over to club.zenatta.com. That's our online social media platform, and basically online social platform. And you got a whole bunch of like-minded people there. We keep all the news stories there. People ask questions there. They ask questions for Azaz. We keep track of every single event that goes on in the world of Zoho, not just our stuff and Zoho stuff. Anybody who does a webinar, send it to us. We'll promote it. We'll get it out here for you. But we would love it if you would check us out. All we require is your email for verification, and you are in the community. And away you go. So anyway, thanks so much for supporting us over at Club Z. And with that, Tyler, let's get right on into the news. Okay, we start with over at CRM. Zoho is now doing multiple activity extraction from emails, query suggestions, and ASCII, and more. The cool part about this announcement for me is this activity extraction. So basically, if you get an email, it's going to have, or you're writing an email, it's going to have this little activity suggestion link that sits in the email. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see what I'm talking about. And it's going to say, hey, do you want to book a meeting? Do you want to create a task? Do you want to set a call? And it's going to have various suggestions. It's also going to recommend times because it's using Zia, like the best time to call thing is and the best time to do it. So it's kind of doing more than just, hey, the best time to call this person is now. You're also having these, same things that sit inside of reading emails as well. So when you're kind of going through, you've got that ability to extract them. I think it's pretty interesting. I think also, when you're in a record and you're actually sitting in a contact record or an account record, after you send an email, it's going to pop up and say, hey, we've got these are some suggestions we have for you. So pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, there's a lot of the times where you might send an email. I mean, even myself, right, using our CRM, I send an email saying, great, like you're going to work on these files. I'll check in with you on Monday to see how it's going and if you have any questions. And, you'd hate to miss that check-in. So it's essentially just going to scan the email and look for those types of, committable events, right, that we can get onto a task or a meeting or a phone call. Very useful. Sometimes they roll out Zia stuff and I don't really see the big use case for it. This is one that I would imagine a lot of people will like using, just because it immediately helps you in your day-to-day workflow.
Yep. And as Zia now is using / commands, it's going to be predictive in the CRM. So if you don't use, you can talk to Zia, but you also can just type commands into Zia. But if you hit a /, it's basically going to say, what are the things you usually ask for? And it's going to have predictive. It's going to say, is this what you're looking for? So you're not going to have to type anything else out. It's going to give you a series of suggestions, very similar to what it does inside a Click. When you type a / kind of gives you a series of, hey, this is probably what you're looking for based upon what you do. And then you're going to have a story mode and advanced analytics inside of Zia Presentation. I am not familiar with this. What is Zia Presentation?
Zia Presentation is kind of like pulling certain KPIs and values out of the system and organizing them. I wouldn't say into like a PowerPoint style view, but into like a, some type of presentation view. So I've not found a use case for it. This would go into the category I just mentioned of things that are cool, but that I don't imagine a lot of people really diving into and using. Never hurts to continuously improve it, but definitely more niche, right? When you're talking about the story mode and kind of using Zia to help you put together some type of presentation using your data.
All right, fantastic. And moving on to the next story here, we've got introducing user groups, roles, and profiles in Zoho Sign. Dun, 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 dun. Dude. We've talked about this just last week.
Long waited.
Zoho Sign introduced basically signer authentication, which was fantastic. And we said really the only thing missing in Zoho Sign was user groups, roles, profiles. And so they have done it. Big news. Really, really excited about this. It's a little bit of work. If you're a large organization, it's going to be a lot of work. You can't really add it's basically breaking you down into groups, roles, and profiles. But you're really setting everything up in individual users, not really by groups. But I think if you're, sub 50 users, it's going to be, it doesn't matter. It works. It's great. But it's basically on an individual user basis that you're setting this thing up now.
The kind of good news about how they set this up is that it's very flexible. Like you could essentially set up any type of sharing rules that you may need. What Brett's referring to with it being a little funky, how it works and being a lot of work is that it's very driven by the individual. Like you'll have to add each user to, user groups and roles one by one. So the way that I've kind of thought about it in my head as I've played with it a little more is like a user role is how you define what data is going to be shared to that person. And a user group is what's going to be, or how you define what group is shared from that user, or what data is shared from them. So like if you wanted a salesperson to have data shared to a legal team, that salesperson would need to be in the salesperson user group and the salesperson role. You'd set up a sharing rule from the salesperson user group to the legal team role, not to the legal team group. So you're going to have to use combinations of both of those to make it work for you. But the good news is you can now, right? So it's a massive step in the right direction. That's something I'm sure Zoho is going to get some feedback on, make some adjustments and tweaks, right? So like if you're watching this in a couple months, this complaint is probably not relevant anymore. But the good news is that, again, you can basically set up any type of sharing rule that you may need. You can have many different roles and groups, and users can be a part of multiple of those different groups to allow the sharing that's necessary. So, if you're a large organization, you have 50 employees, it's going to be a little time to get this set up. But then the reality is when you're onboarding new users, you'll just want to make sure to document like which groups need to be assigned to which people based on the role and just get used to doing that each time. But you can get very, very custom now with these rules, which is, like Brett mentioned, really just the last thing that was an issue in Zoho Sign. So huge update. Don't want to take the wind out of their sails with a little bit of feedback. The reality is it totally works for what you need. I'm sure they'll continue to improve and adjust it.
And also because of that, we moved it on our resource library. If you don't know, if you head over to Zenatta.com resources, we break down the Zoho apps into the definitely maybe category. And Zoho Sign has finally moved up into the top rankings, into the definitely category. So congrats, guys. That's really all that's missing. Anybody can use it now. If you haven't checked out a resource library, that is where we track the apps. We tell you if they're going to work for your organization. If not, all of our tutorials, and we're breaking it down into definitely, probably, and maybe. And so, so each one of these apps, they've got like every single application out there, they've got pros and cons. But if we put them in the definitely category, that means really 99.9% of any organization in the world, they're going to work fantastic for. So big job for those guys. I mean, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, Sign's crossed its last hurdle. I'm sure it'll only get better from there, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And our next story, I got really excited when I read this announcement. I still think it's cool. I think they're heading in the right direction. But Zoho Field Service Management, the mobile app, one of the knocks, Tyler, you've dug into this app in a big, big, big way. You probably are the first person out with a video on it and a review on the entire thing and how it works. And you're pretty high on this app. But the one thing that's kind of kept it down in our probably category is the fact that it doesn't have any offline mode. It does have an offline mode now, but it's going to depend if it works or not. I'm glad they did it. They're heading in the right direction here. Basically, in the offline mode, the app is constantly going to keep the last 200 service appointments by created time, not modified time, by created time. And it's going to have all of the related details, service reports, timesheets, trips, notes, and work orders. So that'll all be available offline, but it's pretty much read-only.
Yeah.
So you can look at it, you can see it, but if you're doing field service, you need to take some pictures, you need to update, you're not going to be able to do anything. You can just kind of read what you're supposed to do. So,
and there's kind of a few things that are a challenge with this one, like field service applications are inherently designed to be used in the field. When you go out into the field, sometimes you don't have great internet connection, right? It's actually pretty common that you're going to have a spotty connection. Depending obviously on where you're going. If you're doing delivery services around a city, yeah, you're probably fine, right? And in the offline mode's no big deal. But a lot of users do need to have offline functionality. Read-only is good, but we would just need to be able to make edits. It really doesn't, I think, fix the main problem with the lack of offline mode. And then I'll also highlight like storing the most recent 200 appointments based on created time can get a little bit funky, because like if you have like recurring orders, recurring appointments that are forecasted into the future, what if those take precedent over an older thing that was scheduled far in advance, right? Like if someone scheduled a service appointment in 6 months for something that they just wanted you to do a routine check-in on, it's very possible that 200 appointments had been scheduled between 6 months ago and now, right?
Where well, it's not what anybody. It's not
kind of need the whole thing, right? I mean,
if I'm a field tech, all you had to store for me that day was my appointments that day.
Yeah, maybe
that's
this
really
week.
all you had.
Yeah.
That's really all you had to do.
What's interesting with it is like the offline mode of the CRM app. I mean, when you download the CRM app, it syncs the full CRM database to your phone, right? So you can see anything in the offline app. I'm interested in why they didn't make that same choice here, right? To just store the 200.
A lot of data.
No, it's not much at all. And ideally, those 200 should line up with what we're doing this week. I can just, off the top of my head, I could think of a couple use cases where it wouldn't work to just have those 200. So like you mentioned, I'm assuming they're going to keep improving this. It's really the big point of feedback I've seen about the app. So step in the right direction, but I wouldn't call this offline supported, right? Like this is a step towards that, but it's not there yet.
Yep. All righty, and moving on with the news. Zoho Finance application domains for API users. April 1st is going to be the next Y2K in in the world of Zoho. So the finance team, in their infinite wisdom, Tyler, has decided to change all of the domain APIs for Zoho Books, Zoho Billing, Zoho Expense, Zoho Inventory, Zoho Invoice. And basically, we're predicting wailing and gnashing of teeth, people running in the streets screaming, the end of civilization as we know it.
It's one of those updates that, I don't know, you don't ever want to like, it's not always fair to compare one company to another, but I'll tell you, like a company like Stripe, they have what they call forever APIs, right? That you can still use if you have an update or if you have an original integration with the V1 Stripe API, they will support it forever, right? And now if they improve that API endpoint, you're not going to get the updates to yours, right? You're going to get whatever was available with version 1 forever. But with something like this, I mean, this is any function that is using an API call into Books or any finance application, third party or built in Zoho, will need to be manually updated to change all these URLs. It doesn't really make sense. Like I'm all for standardizing the structure of the API URLs. That's fine, you know, but
keep the old ones.
You have to do a redirect when these things are already in use. It's kind of crazy to go through and make everyone make this type of change. It's a bit baffling to me.
Yeah, it's bad. But anyway, so the bottom line is that I doubt if they're going to phase it out. So if you start to see, oh, hey, this custom function I had that used to work perfectly well now doesn't work sometime after April, you're going to have to update your new domain API. And the crazy thing is they're different for every country. And the whole V3 thing is the thing that kills me. The fact that they version these things is also painful, because then when they go to a new version, we go through,
and they're doing like rapid versioning now. I won't go down the rabbit hole on that, but yeah, it makes the development environment a little unstable, right? When there's a potential that you just have to go through many, many, many functions and change these URLs, where it's not a standard practice, right? It's normal for companies to have new versions of APIs and support those and kind of stop supporting the old ones. But a change like this just doesn't quite make sense to me. Knowing that like you can redirect these calls to the new URLs on your side, right? Rather than having all the customers go through and have to make this type of update.
The good news is that even though stuff may break, it's a very easy fix. It's just kind of a pain. So, it really will be a 5-minute tops fix to go in and fix these things, but still going to be difficult. So anyway, there you go. A little PSA end of the world announcement. Little Armageddon. All right, and now new in Zoho Billing. Zoho Billing used to be Zoho Subscriptions. Now it's Zoho Billing. Some really kind of cool stuff that they have rolled out here. So you can now do a one-time invoice on a subscription plan with add-ons. So it's not a subscription. It's one time, but it's kind of nice. You can do a one-off of a subscription, and a person can pay one time. So that is kind of cool. If you're in Germany, you've got brand new unique custom numbers that you can enable. And I love this one. You can now create subscriptions from a quote. So if you're in a quote, you can just take that quote and turn it directly into a subscription. And you can do that from the customer module. You can do it from the quotes module. It's very, very, very nice. And then even though we were discussing this pre the show, someone had actually asked Zoho just last week if they were going to ever support Apple Pay. And they said, no, now they do. They support it via Stripe. So if you are a Stripe user or Stripe client, one of the things you can now do is go ahead and add Apple Pay in, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, why not? Cool. I mean, one thing we always talk about with our customers is make it easy, right? When you're working a deal or you've got a repeat customer, like you want to give them as many options to pay as they'd like, right? Let them use their preference. So yeah, I'm always very in support of new options being created. I loved too that they added the ACH via Stripe. That seems to work really cool, really smooth. So nice. Everything just seems to run all through Stripe now, which is really slick.
Yeah, and if you haven't done that, it's pretty quick to enable that. If you're a Stripe user,
oh yeah, it took like a minute to turn it on. It was super smooth.
Yeah, I wish I could get more people to select it when paying, because if you pay through ACH, I think Stripe charges you like 50 cents or something like that. It's ridiculously cheap. Otherwise, it's 2.9% and 30 cents a transaction, which can add up.
Absolutely.
In a big way at the end of the day. So, by the way, we haven't got to play with Zoho. What's it called? Zoho Pay?
Zoho Payments, yeah.
Zoho Payments. So Zoho Payments is doing something where it's 2.7% and 29 cents a transaction. So they're shaving a penny off and 0.2 of a point. That's on everything but Amex. But Amex is just the 2.9%. So not bad. It is for U.S.-based credit cards. If you go out of country, it gets a little more expensive if someone's paying from overseas. But it's interesting in that they, I don't remember the announcement on it. I don't know if we talked about it much, but they're doing some interesting things there as well. So Zoho's kind of doing their own payment processing now. So
yeah, we were thinking of potentially switching over, but they don't support ACH yet. And so I guess it becomes a math equation, right? How many of your customers are on ACH? How many are on Amex? How many are on a non-Amex credit card, right? How much do they all pay? It just becomes math, right? To figure out what the best option is. But as we kind of talked about before, some customers prefer to pay with ACH. So it's nice to be able to allow that option at the end of the day. Yeah,
and it adds up. Depending on the size of your company, if you're doing $5 million, that 0.2%, is that 100 G's?
Yeah. Something like that.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. So anyway, moving on. Zoho Workly. I threw this story in because you talk about an application we absolutely never talk about. It's Zoho Workly. This is kind of a shift management, not to be confused with Zoho Shifts, correct?
Yeah. Different application.
Yeah. Different. What's the difference between the two?
Shifts.
Jog my memory.
Yeah, Zoho Shift is just shifts. That's all it does, right? Like
you're laying out who's working when.
It's shifts and users take shifts, and that's just about it. Workly does a lot more, right? It's more for like managing a workforce of contractors, right? It's kind of one of their like CRM flip applications, so you could like link a contractor to a client that they're working for. There's a lot more functionality there versus shifts. Whereas, shift is like, hey, you run a retail store, you have 5 shifts, you need to fill them. Whereas this is a much larger scale application for managing contractors.
All right. Well, they've added flexible and fixed shift patterns. So basically, if it's a fixed shift, you select fixed and you get to put in the dates and the times. And if it's flexible, you don't get to put in the dates and the times. It's just it's flexible. So for those of
Very
you
nice.
who are some Workly user needed this.
Yeah.
So someone out there, this is for you.
It kind of makes sense, right? Like for certain types of contract work, you don't have a fixed start and end time that you expect them to clock in, right? Like an example would be, we don't do this, but if you had like a outsourced development company, you can't really specify that they're going to clock in to do a task from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Like you're actually, if someone's a contractor, you're kind of not allowed generally to tell them exactly when they need to do certain work. So being able to say like, hey, this is a shift.
Could give them
a date.
Yeah,
a date. Obviously, in your relation with a contractor, they want to make you happy. But with flexible shifts, it makes a lot of sense for contract work, where you might not even know at the time exactly when this is going to be done. You just know it needs to be done, so someone needs to clock in and do it.
All right, so Workly users, there you go. And moving on with the news, Tyler, Zoho Creator's got some upcoming updates.
Yeah, so if you hear nothing super major, one thing they added is a system integrations page. Important to note, this is not new integrations. These were already here. What this is a place for a super admin to easily go in and make sure all those connections are working and see which ones are being used, right? So like checkout, analytics, Zepto-Mail, these are all things you could already connect to Creator. It's just they didn't have an easy place to go in and connect them, enable them, disable them if you ever need to. So now you're just giving you a one-stop shop for that. I'm always a fan of this. Like Creator can be tricky to navigate around, so just listing this out is really
it's kind
nice.
of borrowing from the CRM UI here.
Yeah, and it kind of ties in. One new thing I've noticed in Creator is it'll actually show you relevant connections that are used on a certain page that you're on, right? So then you can kind of go here and see all of them in one place. Second update is a minor one, but again, it's like if it's valuable for you, you're gonna love it. It's called a focus task. Kind of a weird word for this, but what this is saying is basically what you can do with Deluge now is say that when a user opens up a form, you're gonna auto-populate a certain field with their cursor, right? So it's like rather than, let's say every single time I open up a certain form, the first thing I do is type a number, right? This is a priority 10, this is priority 7, whatever. What you can do now is set that priority field as what they call a focus task, which will mean that when I open it, it's automatically selected into that field. This is very specifically useful for people who like keyboard commands. So if you like tabbing through a form rather than clicking on the individual fields, this is for you, right? Because now you're never going to have to click. You can just type and tab the whole time. So again, lots of people are never going to touch that, but it is really cool. We thought we would mention it. And then last one is they're deprecating XLS files. This is the old Excel file format. I believe this is just getting rid of them as... Yeah, it looks like you're not going to be able to create them in scripts or kind of work with them within Creator. So again, minor update. Most people now are on XLSX. Pretty rare that I get sent an XLS file nowadays, so shouldn't really be too big of a deal for anybody. But if it is, now you know.
And pretty easy to fix. All right, and wrapping up the news with, we thought that was already there. Zoho Meeting got a nice update. They now have personal meeting rooms. So if you aren't familiar with that, that's kind of like your permanent room. You never have to change it. You set it up once. You've got your own link. You've got your own password. You can just share with anybody, and it's always a good meeting link. Kind of a standard thing in most meeting software. And so they've added that in as, basically Zoho Meetings just been getting better and better and better over the years. And there's just all these little features that, they're kind of catching up with or adding in.
Right.
It's actually a really solid application. Now, I think the biggest thing I would say is that they just need to get up a little more bandwidth on some of their stuff. But it's as far as an application goes, it's rock solid. So
Yeah.
it's
I really
very,
like
very good.
the annotator as well. They kind of snuck
Yeah.
that in. If we scroll down, we can see if they've got a good screenshot for it. There you go. You can kind of
Yep.
see it. So
Yeah.
this is something that I actually use in Zoom all the time, is the Zoom annotator, which is basically the ability for someone who's in the meeting to like draw on the screen. Now, obviously, not a permission you always want to have turned on. If you got like a wide webinar, like lots of people that you don't know, maybe don't allow people to do this. But for
Yep.
me, like I might be on a call helping out a client with something. They share their screen and I draw a circle and say, click here, right? It's just the ability to quickly annotate on a screen share that they're opening up. So this is great. I mean, this honestly, I think this should have got like its own post. It's a really nice feature that not all meeting tools have. And it's one that, again, I'm biased because I love using it in Zoom. But it's really nice to see this come to meeting as well.
Yeah, it's a little different though. You've got to actually install this now too. So
Interesting.
it's not just like it's there. So depending on what operating your system you're using, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux, they're supported. This is working on the desktop application of Meeting. So you'll need to install it and drop it in, and then you will have Annotator on your version. But it's a separate app that you will install on your app. A little odd for this. I mean, we've seen this a lot with Zoho Desk, where a lot of the core features are kind of separate. At first, there are some features I think is great, because why do you want to clutter things up?
I like it in Desk. I don't like it for this. I think this should just be added to the product. Feels kind of funky to have to download a side app, for doing a meeting annotation. Yeah. Because that would just mean that like if I had a sales call with somebody who wasn't using Zoho Meeting yet, there's no chance they would already have this installed.
Yep.
Right. Where in Zoom, I'll actually have people draw on my screen as well. Anyways, nice feature. Hopefully it just gets rolled into the product eventually, though. That would be a little smoother for people.
All right. Well, that wraps up an exceptionally busy news week, and we actually left about 5 stories out. So if you subscribe to our newsletter, just head over to zenatta.com/newsletter and subscribe. Every week, every news story we cover on this show is listed there, and with kind of brief little notes on them. You can also head over to Club Zenatta and click on the news and see all of the news there as well. So either way, we just don't have time to cover some things on this show, and sometimes they're kind of little minor updates, but you'll always get them if you get our newsletter, 6 a.m. every Monday, 6 a.m. Pacific time. It'll be in your inbox. And with that, Tyler, let's head over to our implementation of the week.
Alrighty, so this week we are looking at a build out here that we did in Zoho Creator, integrating with Authorize.net, essentially creating a payment checkout form for our client to be able to take payments over the phone for certain services that they work with. This was built out by Jordan and Alex on the Zenatta team. Essentially, the goal here, like I mentioned, was just to make it easy for our client to start the process of taking a payment over the phone via Creator, take that payment securely, and then reconcile that payment back into Creator so that we know for sure that it's been paid. So first thing we did is essentially create a form in Creator that allows them to start the process. So the form links to the creator, and you gather certain information about the specific purchase that's being made. Once you filled out that form and you press the magic button, what happens in the background is a creator script will run that will generate a unique payment kind of URL or checkout URL in Authorize.net. But then it also will grab that URL and store it back in the creator record so that when the checkout occurs, we know which record it was for and we can reconcile everything. Then the Authorize.net page will open up using just like an open URL function within the script, where we can actually enter in that credit card information, check the customer out, and then back within Zoho CRM, we're notified about, or within Zoho Creator, I should say, we're notified about that checkout and can kind of like close out that creator form as paid, right? Because we know that that occurred. So a couple key things that are nice about this build is one, we really wanted to avoid taking this payment via creator using one of their like payment checkout fields. The customer does e-commerce checkout, so we're already set up to run through this authorized.net account. So it made a lot more sense to just keep everything there rather than like rebuild a secure checkout workflow within creator. And then part two, the nice part is just that reconciliation. So we actually know that this payment occurred. One like dangerous thing with these types of processes is like, let's say you start that form in creator and the checkout never actually goes through in authorized.net. Maybe the credit card fails, right? And the salesperson might not notice that it failed. And so they're just on to the next thing. Hey, your transaction went through. You might later actually end up accidentally providing that service to someone who didn't pay for it because someone comes in, they see that creator record, they assume it was paid, and then they reach out to, provide the service. So those two steps are kind of the most important part here, is just keeping everything within the natural payment processing flow, but also making sure that the only things that will move forward in the process are things that have a validated authorized.net checkout where payment was actually received.
Very, very cool. Authorized.net is such a... What was that?
So definitely a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just had a whole conversation with somebody about authorized.net the other day. I mean, it's fantastic that Zoho supports that virtually across all of their applications, because that allows you to use pretty much any credit card processor you want. So wherever your merchant account's at, you can easily plug it in and use it across the application. So nice job, Jordan and Alex. And with that, let's head back over to Club Z and look at our code share of the week. Tyler, last week's code share was, I think, the biggest hit ever. I think people were just raving over that and how we put that out. That was, I believe, taking attachments out of the CRM, putting them in a work drive folder, then deleting them from the CRM. This is a pretty big one too. So what has Jason got for us here today?
Yeah, so essentially what we're looking at here, and this is used in particular cases, is the script here will allow you to create an embedded signing link from Zoho Sign. So you don't always need this. A lot of the time you're going to be emailing out a signed document. But let's say that you have, maybe someone's inside of a creator portal, right? And within that portal, you give them the ability to purchase new services. And so they fill out a creator form specifying the service that they want. They can fill out that form and submit it. The form can trigger a function that will create a Zoho signable document via a template. And what Jason here is showing is the ability to then get the embed code for that document that you just created and bring it back, right? So if you want to make sure that that's a one-step process where they don't, well, technically two steps, if we're being fair, they'll create the form and then it will immediately open. But you have a much higher chance of them signing that document quickly if you do this rather than email it to them separately. So it's just a way of kind of bringing in those signed documents into a like form workflow without having to kick it out via a text or an email. So yeah, shout out to Jason. This one's really useful. We use this in Creator a lot because you're able to create those pages, right, that are all HTML anyways, right? So when you get this code back, it's pretty straightforward to embed it and have the form kind of route you directly to signing.
Yeah, very, very cool. Very, very, very cool. Nice job, Jason. All righty. And with that, let's head back over to Zenatta and see what we've got going on over there.
Well, Tyler, it's finally here.
We have now released the health check for Zoho CRM. So a long time ago, Tyler and I sat down 5 years ago?
5 years ago, I think, yeah. Just about 5.
Yeah. And we created a health check, and it was a service we sold, and you got a couple hours of support, and we basically built the health check. But what people really liked was kind of the fundamental health check report that came out of it. And so we kind of discontinued the health check, I don't know, 2 years ago?
Something like that, 2 or 3.
Not a service we really offered to anybody. But I don't know, 6-8 months ago, we started kicking around the idea of turning the health check application or the health check part of it, the reporting part of it, into a Zoho Marketplace app. And kudos to the team, kudos to Greg, everybody who worked on this, Josh. There were so many people that kind of dug into this, but we have now released the health check for Zoho CRM. And so basically what this thing does is you can set it up, but normally it's running on a monthly basis, and it goes through and it tells you what's happening in your account, how many open deals you had, how many closed deals you had, how many are past due. So it's supposed to close on February 4th. Well, it's February 8th and its close date hasn't been updated on it. Is it happening? Is it not happening? It checks all sorts of things. Is there missing information? Do you have contacts without emails? Do you have contacts without phone numbers? Do you have accounts without contacts? So it's kind of going through and just validating everything that's going on in your CRM. It can, things can get messy as you start going through. And this basically goes through and takes care of that for you. So that is our health check app. I want to say it's $10 a month.
Yep, like $10 a month is what we've got it at right now.
$10 a month for the app, and it's going to run this check, and away you go. You can run it ad hoc. So head on over to the Zoho Marketplace and check it out. We've got a free 7 or 14-day trial on it, so you don't even have to pay for it. You can try it for a little bit and see if you find it valuable. We'd love your feedback as well. So if you do try it out, please let us know what you think about it. So
one of my favorite parts about it that the team was able to add is checking for unused licenses. Right. A lot of the times when we first engage with a new customer, we'll go and check their licensing, and it's like, they've got 10 people using CRM, but 15 licenses are being paid for. Right. And it's like, well, first thing let's save you 100, whatever that would be, $200 a month on your licensing here and get rid of some of these unneeded licenses. So well worth it even just for that. I mean, if it saves a license here or there, it'll pay for itself. But well worth taking a look at. Like Brett mentioned, we love to hear the feedback. If you guys enjoy it, please let us know.
Yep. And Greg's put together a nice little video, 8-minute long video, stepping you through the install, the usage, what you're going to get out of it. So fantastic. Great work, team. Love to hear what everybody thinks about it. So, and with that, Tyler, let's wrap things up and go to our tip of the week. Dun, 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 dun. So, Tyler, you are like on fire lately. So Zoho released Cadence Studio, and you put together a little video on this new feature inside of Zoho CRM. What'd you think of it?
It's pretty good. So Cadence Studio, it's basically a way to have outreach processes that branch based on the outcome of each step. And that's a lot of words to basically say, if you think about it for the context of email, send email number 1. If they don't open it in 7 days, send email 2. If they open it, immediately send email 3. It's all just like response-based activity right here that you can do for emails, tasks, and calls. A lot of this stuff, if you're pretty adept in CRM, you'll probably notice watching this video that you could do a lot of this with workflows already. If you had workflows and leads and workflows and emails and in tasks and in calls, the goal I think on Zoho's side is to consolidate this down into one kind of easier to use flow so that you're not having to touch so many different pieces of configuration to get it done. There are a couple things in here that I would like to see them change. I mean, it's always the new feature, right? So you're going to expect that they're going to tweak it and adjust it. Biggest one being you can't branch on call result. You can only branch on call status. But basically all calls should go to the status completed, right? When you make them. And then once it's completed, you define a result like left voicemail or told me no thanks or, whatever, right? Whatever the outcome of that call is. So you might have to do a couple odd things like have different types of completed call statuses that basically define what the outcome was so that you can like kind of branch it accordingly. You can't trigger like custom actions in this, so you wouldn't be able to use it for SMS right now. So there's, odds and ends that I think aren't perfect, but for like a core outreach flow, it's a big step in the right direction for making these things easier to use and easier to configure. I do also sneak in like one little extra bonus tip at the end about how to use a workflow to exit someone from the Cadence. So well
That's
worth
cool.
watching through to the end, just because it's not obvious as you're setting it up how you would go about doing that.
Very nice. Cool stuff. Man, you were talking there and I was watching the video and I forgot I was even doing the show. I started eating my breakfast over here. I just got completely lost as everything was going on. Anyway, that's
Have that
very
effect on people.
cool video. You've been doing some amazing stuff lately. Just really, really, really good. And oh, by the way, everybody, if you don't know and you head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Zenatta, that's where we keep all our videos. And this week, because of all your support, another angel got its wing. That's right. We hit the 15,000 subscriber mark, Tyler. It's a
Wow.
big day for us.
Big milestone. Big
know.
milestone.
Absolutely crazy. Really, really excited about that. We're adding right now around 550, 600 subscribers a month. You guys have just been, the support has just been tremendous. So want to thank everybody. Keep supporting us. We'll keep putting out the great content. We hope you find it useful. And tell us what you're looking for, because we keep putting out as much as we can. And the team is hard at work putting this stuff out for you guys. Tyler, lately, I don't know, you're on fire, my friend.
The new setup Freddie made for me, man. It makes it so easy to get things recorded. So shout out to Freddie.
The OBS setup?
Yeah, the whole OBS setup. It cuts like a huge amount of time out of my workflow to record content. I won't get into the nerdiness of it here for the viewers who might not care, but yeah, it makes it much easier for me to make a high quality video without having any like setup or set down time, right? That I have to do.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, everybody. Well, we want to thank you so much for tuning in to the CRM Zen Show. And as always, if you would like to talk to Tyler or myself, well, just head over to Zenatta.com and click on book a meeting, and we'd be happy to chat with you.
On the website is where you'll find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we discussed today. If you want that news delivered to your inbox every Monday morning, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. And last but not least, as always, we appreciate when you like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Friday.
And by the way, that was if you want to head over to Zenatta.com and book a meeting with us if you want to talk to us about Zoho. If you just want to talk to us, you can do that as well. And I'm sure we'll be happy to talk to you, but probably be better with us about Zoho. Have a great weekend, everybody.